Morning, everyone. I can see people gradually joining. Welcome to the second of our HSbooster Training Academy webinars. We'll just wait while the numbers go up and people log in before we start. But we've got another very useful training session, so we hope that you'll be able to stay with us for the next 90 minutes, where we'll be hearing from representatives of CEN-CENELEC and ETSI, and hearing about the European Standardisation System. So my name's Nick Ferguson, and I'm the coordinator of HSbooster, and I work for an SME called COMMpla, which is based in Pisa in Italy. And as I said, we coordinate the project and we organize we manage the training, we manage the management of the project, and as well as the communications and dissemination. Whereas the University of Belgrade, which today is represented by Anna Kicanovic, it runs the Training Academy, which is one of the very important outputs of the Horizon Results Booster. And as I said, today we're joined by Ashok Ganesh, who is the Director of Market Perspectives in Innovation at CEN-CENELEC, and David Boswarthick from ETSI, he is the Director of New Technologies there. So we're very pleased to have them on. They're very important people in the whole network of standardization in Europe, because of course ETSI and CEN-CENELEC are the European standardization organizations. So what we'll be doing today is we'll be having an introduction from Anna, who will describe the system, give an overview of it, before handing over to Ashok, who will give an overview of CEN-CENELEC in a nutshell, and then over to David, who will be talking about ETSI. And we're very interested in hearing about how these organizations work in the standardization field, and also how they engage with EC-funded projects. Now, today's webinar also has an accompanying training material, which you can see the link to on the right of the slide. And this is part of the broader academy, which has over 20 different materials, which have been written and designed by the University of Belgrade, specifically targeting consortia of EC-funded projects, which is really the focus of the Horizon Results Booster. And you can see a link to that down in the middle of my slide. So the Training Academy has lots of other things, and we'll talk about those just in a moment, including future webinars. But one of the things we want to do today is also gather opinions and gather input from you, the participants. So there'll be a few Mentimeter questions coming up during the session, and Biljana, who you can see on the screen too, who's also from the University of Belgrade, will be managing those. Okay, so we'd really appreciate if you could click on the links, answer the questions, and there'll be a total of 4 questions during the webinar, so that we can understand better, your understanding of the standards landscape, and also, it's interesting to hear what people think of it, and things they associate with standardization, and the various benefits and barriers as well. So this is important data for our project, and interesting, I think, to share with ETSI and CEN-CENELEC as well. So we've got 72 participants registered today. So I do hope you can all stay on, and we have 28 projects registered as well, and these come from a variety of different areas. We can see projects on 5G and 6G technologies. We can also see projects on energy and plastics recycling, and also rail as well, technology and rail. So we're very excited and very interested. We have a broad range of topics that the projects address, and a good spread over European countries as well, which is very nice. So as I said, the training session today is part of a broader academy, which has lots of material and is broken up into different levels as well. So we try to appeal to different types of people with different levels of understanding of standardization. And we also have a series of webinars connected to the training material that we have online. So we have actually 2 more training sessions which are coming up in June. The first one is limited spaces only. So if you're interested, then you need to register pretty quickly. This is but you'll not be able to be checking your emails during this, because this is an active game. Okay, it's a serious gaming session which will be running online, and it looks at negotiation skills in a standardization setting. And it's an excellent game that's been devised by University of Belgrade through HSbooster in collaboration with the House of Knowledge, who have excellent experience in devising and delivering games associated with standardization. So we'll be running this on the 20th of June. So we already have a number of registrations. So if you're interested, come and join us. And you can see in the picture, that's me playing the game when we were in Belgrade for a project meeting. It's really very, very good and very engaging. So I'd encourage you to do that if you're interested in that. Then on the 23rd of June, we have another training session called Standards Users and Use of Standards. And here we have Ivana Mijatovic, who's the professor at the University of Belgrade. We have Chiara Giovannini, who's Deputy Director General of the European Association for the Coordination of Consumer Representation and Standardization, and Matan Olabaria, who's Secretary General of the Small Business Standards, and is also one of our external experts who advise us on strategy and direction of the project. So I just wanted to spend 1 minute on the booster, where we are as well, to give you an update. As you know, we are a pilot project. We're piloting the European Standardisation Booster. And as you also may know, we deliver 3 different types of services targeting EC-funded projects. Okay, so we've been running for just over a year now. We just had our first year review as well, where we were able to report on some of the main outputs and results from the project so far, which I'll touch upon in just a second. But the Training Academy is essential for the booster, and it's already, since its launch in April, it's already making a difference, and we see lots of visits to that area of our website. Our premium services, where we link up projects to experts, standardization experts, are one of the main things which we're trialing in the booster. And we're now completing the first set of services. So the first engagement between projects and standardization experts are now coming to an end. So we're seeing real impact in the projects, and we're seeing real satisfaction as well from the projects in terms of the engagement and the input the standardization experts have been able to give them. So we've just highlighted a couple here where you can see the type of practical support that they're giving. The experts are able to give the projects in terms of guidance, in terms of identifying and matching project results to relevant standards, relevant technical committees, or just guidance on the strategy that the project may have if they're just starting out. And you can see some of the comments from the projects as well, who value the fact that they get to speak to someone. So this human contact I think is very nice and very important. So as I said, we're on our way with the booster. We have over 90. So these numbers were from a couple of days ago. We have over 90 premium service applications now. So that counts for quite a lot of projects who are interested in applying. And I know that some of the projects who are attending today have also already applied. And we also have an automated service and a chatbot now available on the website, where you can ask entry-level questions or lots of different questions, and you'll get an automated response or links to other parts of the website or relevant documents, or we ask you to get in touch if you don't get your answer. And as I said, these experts we've recruited, we have over 150 of them now, and we're looking for more. The experts are paid for supporting the project with a fee. And we're very happy that this is working and being rolled out. So I mentioned the 2 webinars that we have on training. We also have a webinar on the 4th of July, which focuses on women in ICT standards. And this is in collaboration with 2 other important coordination support actions, one of which is Stand ICT, and the second is Stand for EU as well. So these are another two coordination support actions working in the standardization field, and we're joined by a very strong panel of women who are working in standards, and the webinar will look at how this can be improved and recommendations around how we can get more women working and involved in standardization. So with that, I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to just remind you of some housekeeping. So we are recording this webinar so that we can put it online and have it available to everybody. The presentations will be available straight afterwards. Please don't activate your microphone and videos unless the host gives you permission. And yeah, you can ask your questions using the Q&A, and the speakers can answer during the session, or also during when the Q&A happens. Don't be shy. We want you to ask questions, and this is a great opportunity to engage with Ashok and David. And you can see some of the other recommendations below. So with that, what I'll do is I'll close my screen, and I will hand over to a very female-oriented department, which is the University of Belgrade, where they have an excellent team, and they're all women, which is fantastic and rare in the standardization field. So Anna, I hand over to you, and have a great time.
Okay, thank you. Now I will share my screen. Just a moment. Okay, can you see my screen? Just to...
It's not a full screen.
Okay, I'm going to try again. And now?
Yes.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Great, thank you. Good morning to everyone, and welcome to our second training session at HSbooster Training Academy. My name is Anna Kicanovic, and I'm an associate professor of standardization and quality management at the University of Belgrade. Initially, I want to point out what we learned at our first training session, Introduction to Standardization. We learned why the researchers need standards, which are the benefits from use of standards and from participation in standards development, what are standards and what is the role of standards in the research process, what is standardization and what is consensus in standardization, and finally, who develops standards. So today's session will be introductory session as well, and intended for beginners in standardization. And my task today is to broaden your horizons regarding European standardization system. So we will search for answers on questions: how European standardization system is set, what is the European standard, how do standards support European legislation, and what are harmonized standards, which are other standardization deliverables than European standard produced by ESOs. And as Nick already mentioned, today we are honored to have representatives from CEN-CENELEC and ETSI, and who will talk with us more about their organizations and how to assess two European organizations for standardizations easily. So let's start with our training. And our first question is, how is European standardization system set? The European Standardization System has an important role in establishing and strengthening the European single market. It is a unique standardization system in the world, primarily because once published, the European standard becomes the national standard in 34 European countries, which enables the free circulation of services and products, facilitating cross-border trade within Europe and the rest of the world. European standards are developed by one of the 3 European standardization organizations, CEN-CENELEC or ETSI. You will hear more about them later. So the European standardization framework provided by European organizations for standardization, based on having a single European standard implemented identically throughout the member countries, with the obligation of withdrawing any conflicting national standard, and no new work can start on issues covered by European standard. So, European Commission established EU strategy on standardization, setting global standards in support of a resilient, green and digital EU single market. The strategy outlines Commission's approach to standards within the single market and globally, acknowledging the standards will play a critical role in enabling European industries to face current challenges. So the new strategy proposes 5 key sets of actions. The first one is to anticipate, prioritize, and address standardization needs in strategic areas. The Commission, for this purpose, established a high-level forum on European standardization to assist Commission in anticipating upcoming standardization priorities. So the forum will advise the Commission on standardization policy, support the identification of priorities, identify future standardization needs, and recommend how better to interconnect research with standardization. The second action is to improve the governance and integrity of the European standardization system. The Commission is proposing to amend the regulation on standardization to improve the governance in the European standardization system and to promote integrated governance and to encourage European standardization organizations to modernize their governance. Then, to enhance European leadership in global standards. Through the high-level forum, the Commission will set up a mechanism with EU countries and national standardization bodies to share information, to coordinate, and strengthen the European approach to international standards. Then, in order to support innovation, the Commission has launched our project, Standardization Booster, in order to make standardization closer to researchers. Also, in March this year, the European Commission has published a new code of practice on standardization in the European research area, with recommendations for research organizations to include standardization as an important tool for valorizing research results. According to code, standards help researchers and innovators bring their innovation closer to the market and spread technological advances by establishing uniform criteria and by developing methods, practices, and procedures publicly available in a formal document. And finally, to enable the next generation of standardization experts by promoting academic awareness on standards and share good practices in order to anticipate the need for standardization experts in future. So our next question is, what is the European standard? The European standard is defined as a standard adopted by a European standardization organization. Then CEN-CENELEC stated European standards approved by CEN-CENELEC are accepted and recognized in all member and associate countries. Then ETSI stated that European standards are used when the document is intended to meet needs specific to Europe and requires transposition into national standards, or when the drafting of the document is required under a standardization request from the Commission or European Free Trade Association. But only standards developed by the three ESOs, CEN-CENELEC and ETSI, are recognized as European standards. This is because CEN-CENELEC and ETSI are officially recognized by European Union and the European Free Trade Association as European standardization organizations responsible for developing standards at the European level. So, the next question, the use of standards. The use of European standards is voluntary in the sense that there is no obligation to comply with them or be involved in their development. So, they are tools for researchers. They can help them to keep up with leading technologies, because standards provide information on leading industry technologies and innovations and are a basis for education through testing, certification, and other activities. Then, to comply with regulations and certification, as public authorities are also part of the standardization process. Standard can support in the creation of policy and regulation, and this is make it much easier for researchers to comply with necessary regulations. Then, to find new partners. Standardization is co-creation process that spans different roles and sectors, including those involved with new technologies. So it makes it easy to find new potential partners. Then, to assess technology and knowledge that supports entry to market, developing new standards or modifying existing standards allow us to keep abreast of market, technology, and policy changes, knowledge of which supports entry to market. Then, to provide in-demand customer service. The methodologies used to provide services will be instantly recognized if they are covered with standards. To get R&I research proposals accepted, public funds such as Horizon projects value standards as project outcome. So including standardization in a research proposal can increase the chance of proposal acceptance. And references to relevant standards will increase the quality of scientific publications, and researchers can get professional recognition. Some benefits for researchers from standards recognized by ETSI are to gain early exposure and the feedback from the standards community that is essential to be considered before taking the results of research to full market deployment, or to get familiar with a roadmap for bringing research results into standards, or to get review and recognition of research results through presentation at ETSI workshops. But more about this you will hear later from our speakers, representatives of these organizations. Now I will present a case study, LASIM, forgive me if I mispronounce, a large additive subtractive integrated modular machine. And the context of this case study, which is one success story of how do standards support new technologies, is that traditional machines have normally been focused on only a single type of manufacturing process. But a new generation of machine is emerging that combine the features of individual manufacturing processes into a single platform. So the LASIM project developed a large-scale, flexible, hybrid additive subtractive machine based on a modular architecture that is easily scalable. And the machine features capabilities for AM and machining, but also is capable of using other functionalities, such as metrology and inspection. And the problem is that AM is a relatively new field, and it is important to develop associate standards to reduce or prevent risks, for example, of the development of mechanical faults in large parts, and to help to improve repeatability and high process efficiency. Potential solutions are standards for hybrid manufacturing. At the beginning of the project, a mapping on the existing AM standards was done. Standards were identified to ensure that the project results were in line with existing standards. So this is very interesting that this alignment was done with several standardization bodies: ISO, CEN, ASTM International, American Welding Society, and the British Standards Institution. And there was a significant focus on ISO and the ASTM International, since these were the standardization bodies identified as most relevant by the industrial users. So the project itself contributed directly to the further development of 12 existing ISO standards. The most notable are these two standards, and both of them are under development in inquiry stage. So this is one success story on how do standards support new technologies. Now we are going to do our first Menti session. So please go to the Menti and please name 3 words that you associate with European harmonized standards. So I will hand it over to Biljana. I'm stop sharing the screen.
Yes, I will share my screen. And I hope you see my screen now.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So please name 3 words that you associate with European harmonized standards. The link is menti.com and code is 25094590. You have 3 words that you can enter, and you can also enter multiple answers. So the code, I will read it one more time, 25094590. We're going to wait just a bit. Just a second. Yes. So the answers are coming. Okay. So here are some answers. Maybe we can wait some more time. Okay. Okay.
A lot of interesting answers.
Yeah.
Right, trade, common market, CEN-CENELEC, let's see.
Best practices, compatibility,
quality,
trade,
directives, directives,
Mhm.
harmonization, law.
Okay. Anna, over to you. I will stop sharing my screen. Or should we wait a couple of more minutes, maybe?
Well, I think we have enough. We can wait for one more minute, but this is a really, really good answers. Rules. Yeah.
Security, white only. Okay, so I will stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
And back to you.
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen again. Is technically everything okay?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. So let's continue with our training. Our next questions are how standards support European legislation and what are harmonized European standards. So the European Standardization System is based on public-private partnership between the Commission and standardization community, which is structured in private non-profit organizations, CEN-CENELEC and ETSI. So as a result of this cooperation, around 30% of the European standards have been mandated by the EC and EFTA in the framework of EU legislation in response to the specific requests issued by Commission. So the Commission is responsible for the assessment of European harmonized standards developed in support of EU law and for their reference in the official journal of the EU. So fundamentally, I saw that you recognized our keywords here. So these standards are known as harmonized standards, defined as European standards adopted on the basis of requests made by the Commission for the application of Union harmonization legislation. So compliance with harmonized standards guarantees that products are in line with EU law. So harmonized standards enable businesses to ensure that their products or services comply with requirements that have been set out in European legislations. And in such cases, it could be said that the standard provides a presumption of conformity with the essential requirements of the relevant EU legislation. So, historically, EU legislation for goods, products, or services has progressed through 5 main phases. The first one was the traditional, old approach, with detailed text containing all the necessary technical and administrative requirements. But the EU steps away from the details and focuses legislation on defining essential requirements by according to new approach developed in 1985. Then a new policy cycle began in 1995 in the wake of the Commission White Paper on Growth, Competitiveness and Employment, and of the Information Society policy initiatives. It is also around that time that the term European Standardisation System started to be used more frequently. So the third phase was the development of the conformity assessment instruments made necessary by the implementation of the various Union Harmonization Acts, both new approach and old approach. The new legislative framework adopted in July 2008, which built on the new approach and completed the overall legislative framework with all the necessary elements for effective conformity assessment, accreditation, and market surveillance, including the control of products from outside the Union. In 2012, Commission adopted Regulation 1025, known as the Standardization Regulation, which provides a legal framework for standardization in Europe, taking into account international trade, internal market and competition law, and secondly, it sets out a mechanism for the production of European standards in line with the new approach. And the last phase was the adoption of a new regulation on market surveillance and a new regulation on mutual recognition of goods lawfully marketed in another member state. Guidance on the implementation of directives based on a new approach, now a new legislative framework, is given in the European Commission's document, the Blue Guide, on the implementation of EU product rules 2022. So, considering all being said, we can conclude that the European Standardization System serves a dual purpose: to serve European industry and to assist EU policy. So, on one side, European standards and standardization deliverables are voluntary, stakeholder-driven, and consensus-based. European standards are widely implemented in the products and services of European and foreign companies and serve a variety of functions. At the same time, European standards may also support EU policy and regulation and provide for a presumption of conformity with EU regulations. Now we will do our second Menti session. So please again go to the Menti. I will hand it over to Biljana, and please name other standardization deliverables than European standard produced by ESOs. Okay, now I'm stop sharing the screen.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank
Do you
you.
see my screen? Okay.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, thank you. So here is the question. Please name other standardization deliverables other than European standards produced by European standardization organizations. Again, you have the QR code here on the screen. The link is menti.com. The code is 4790869. I will also share this link in the chat. So while we're waiting for the responses, or I can ask Maria to do so.
Already shared. So
Okay, thank you, Maria. So we can wait a bit to see, do we have some responses? We have, as I see, 11 people online. Okay, so here are some responses.
Great.
Okay, we can wait a bit more.
Statistics.
Right.
Technical specifications, recommendations, reports, CWA, guides,
Mandates.
workshop agreements. So our participants today did their homework. So these are great responses.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I think we can go back to you.
Yes.
I will stop sharing my screen. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen again. Is everything okay?
yes.
Thank you. So, great answers. None of the ESOs is only a producer of European standards. There are a lot of other deliverables, and standardization deliverable designates technical specification produced by ESOs, which may not be full-fledged as the standard within the meaning of regulation on standardization, but represents some level of limited or informal consensus. So, of course, deliverables are produced faster and more flexibly than standards. So here on the slide, we can see other deliverables produced by CEN-CENELEC and ETSI. And there is like CEN-CENELEC technical specification, technical report, guides, workshop agreements, or ETSI special report or ETSI technical report. Most of them are participants recognized or are second Menti sessions. So some research results are not solution for standards. Some are, but not all of them. In most cases, for researchers engaged in R&D projects which have developed innovative solutions in some fields, standards are not appropriate way to disseminate project results, because that solution still needs time to reach a satisfactory level of technology stability. So, to answer researcher needs regarding the standardization, ESOs developed other deliverables, and I think there are some of them more interesting for projects, such as workshop agreements. By analyzing involvement in standardization process of finished EU-funded projects, we found out that the most of them developed CWAs. So I'm going to present you two case studies of EU-funded projects, Finnish projects, which developed CWAs. The first one is case study unlocking new value from urban biowaste, value waste. The context is of this case study as that the current situation with biowaste in the EU countries is that they produce 80 million tons of urban biowaste annually and import 77% of the required proteins for feed or food supplies. So the problem is there are no sustainable and circular practices for handling biowaste in the EU, and that there is a need to develop alternatives and sustainable sources of proteins and fertilizers. So what is the potential solution? The potential solution is standardization. Standardization are the critical key factors for the successful implementation of urban biowaste selective collection schemes. So this project developed CWA 17866, and standardization of these critical factors will help city managers and waste managers to increase the quality of collected biowaste, which can be used in valorization processes. Further, standardization will deliver citizen sorting and recycling efforts to improve the biowaste quality and create a way for cities to transition to a circular economy. So we can see that this is one success story on how standards support new solutions. And the second case study, which I will present you, is case study C-Titan, a revolutionary power takeoff technology standards support new technologies. So this case study is an example of a success story of how standards support new technologies. Context is that the C-Titan project fosters a step towards change in the marine wave energy sector by designing, building, testing, and validating a cross-cutting and innovative direct drive power takeoff solution to be used with multiple types of wave energy converters. Problem is that currently each original equipment manufacturer has different requirements. So pursuing the development of bespoke components not only limits the utility of the end product, but also multiplies the development costs, causing a barrier to establish a dedicated supply chain and fully deploy this renewable energy technology in practice. And what is solution? Potential solution lays down in standardization. The CWAs related to a new concept of product, which the main characteristic of being modular and integratable with different systems, intending to redefine this sector. So if the product is accepted by the market and new open innovation is added, stronger standardization of the product at European or international level will be market must, and the published CWAs will be the basis to grow from. So, C-Titan promoted the creation of two CVAs. First, gives requirements and recommendation for designing and manufacturing this new technology. And the second one describes the laboratory testing methodology for this new technology. And this is very important that appropriate technical committees, ETSI committee and CEN-CENELEC, have been contacted and informed accordingly, so they can take the CWAs, this tool, as the basis for further standardization work in this field. So thank you. This is all from me. I will hand it over to our next speaker, Mr. Ashok from CEN-CENELEC. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen and give the word to Mr. Ashok. Ashok, do you hear me? Okay, I saw the shadow timings. Okay, but Ashok, now it's with us.
Hello. Yes, I'm back with perfect timing. My connection dropped out. But
Yes.
Hopefully I'm back. Apologies for that.
Thank you.
Is it? Oh, sorry. Over to me. It's my turn.
Yes, it is. Please go ahead, Ashok.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was. Let me just call up my slides. While I do that, I just wanted to. Bear with me a second. Right, I was very organized a few minutes ago, and now I'm not. So hopefully that's okay. If you can all hear me properly and you can see the slides properly, then
yes.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think there's some thanks to be said to acknowledge before I start. One is to all the participants who joined, who have given up their time to join this session to learn about standardization and how we can support from the European Standards Organization's research activities. Thank you to the HSbooster team for the invite and the preparation, and very much thanks to Anna for the really great explanation and the grounding you've given on standardization. I think you've gone much further than a grounding, and it makes my job certainly a lot easier. I've got a lot of slides to show, and I'll try and do that in a fairly quickly but in a coherent way. I think the main message, though, I want to give is the CEN-CENELEC as a standardization system, part of a standardization system in Europe. We are open, excuse me. We are open. We have an offer. We offer the platform for the creation of European standards, and we even link into the creation of standards at the international level, the global level, and we want to make that offer as wide as possible. So my participation today in this event, if you don't understand everything, if I'm not clear, then hopefully that's not the end of the day. At least you know that CEN-CENELEC exists and you can contact us, and I've got colleagues who I can put you in touch with who will be more coherent than me. So I'll launch into my slides now, and there's a little bit of history that I need to inflict upon you so you understand exactly where we are today and what our motivation is today. So CEN-CENELEC is two of the three European standards organizations. We've been around about 60 years. We are both CEN and CENELEC associations of national standards bodies in Europe. So we are made up of the national standards bodies of 34 European countries. So we're an association, so we're a network, and we offer this standardization platform. We were really driven from the 1960s by the needs of the very traditional industries, and you'll see some pictures there. And basically our platform existed because there was a need for those industries, iron and steel making, you see railway tracks, you see construction. There was a need for standards, and our existence was provoked by the need for European standards. and hence CEN-CENELEC were created. And we existed throughout the rest of the 20th century, really on a sort of a responsive, a reactive basis to the needs of standards from the existing mechanical and civil engineering areas. And between CEN, it's in the name, CENELEC covers the electrotechnology aspects, and CEN covers a more multi-sectoral, from things like food up to construction, as I said, and transport and medical devices and everything in between. As we come through to the latter part of the 20th century, this symbiotic relationship, certainly CEN-CENELEC and European industry, was very, very close. And CEN-CENELEC, we didn't really need to look anywhere else. We looked at the big industries, we looked at the traditional industries, what do they need? And we set ourselves up and focused on meeting those standardization needs. And that was fine. That fitted for that time of evolution. But as time goes on, things become more complicated and more complex, and there are many more needs coming from many different areas. And you'll see some of the images on the screen there are meant to explain. Now there is this, of course, understanding that we need for sustainability, we need to protect the planet, we need to be not only look after this generation's needs, but future generations' needs. There's a whole wealth and raft of new and emerging technologies that need to be addressed that weren't there 20 years ago, let alone 40 years or 50 years ago. There are cross-cutting needs like data protection. We didn't have much data 40 years ago, but now we have, and it's valuable, it's important, and it's critical, so it needs to be protected. And of course, we've got growing technologies, which are an incredible opportunity, but also they need to be controlled. The current discussion in the media on artificial intelligence is testament to that. And things like that come across us suddenly, like the COVID pandemic, needed to be addressed, and standardization as a role. So suddenly things are not so complicated, and we need to change our offer in CEN-CENELEC, and we need to look further afield, and we also need to look upstream. What are the issues that are coming predominantly from research and innovation activities, innovators and researchers? They need to be part of so that very close relationship. You saw the cat and the dog, very close relationship with industry, needs to be a closer relationship with more partners involved. And that's where we are today, is moving our offer. The world is a much smaller place than it was 40 years ago, through things like the internet, social media, the connections, everybody's connected. Information flows much more quickly than it did 25, 30, 40 years ago. So there's a need for standardization to recognize and adapt to that. And there are many more needs for global solutions in many cases. And having a European approach can help to achieve that global, satisfy that global need and look after European interests. So standards alone, we're very good in CEN-CENELEC, pretending that standards are the only thing that matter, but standards are only one component of a huge quality infrastructure. There are rules, there are regulations, laws. There's a need to show compliance. There's a need to link with certification and testing, conformity. So standards are only one element, and we need to work better to link and to allow, for example, market access for new technologies and new knowledge. Standards can be an enabler, a very important enabler, but it's not the only element. There are lots, again, 40, 50 years ago, standardization bodies were probably few and far between. Today, this is a slide I borrowed from our friends in the Alliance of Internet of Things. I can't remember the last I stands for, but they put together this overview. I think even this is out of date. If you look at the different market areas, technology areas, these are the standards developing organizations who, that's the choice. And CEN-CENELEC, ETSI, ISO, IEC, we have feature in there, but the world is not so simple as it used to be. There are many more choices. One of the things that we think we offer from the European standards point of view, and looking up to the ISO, the international ISO and IEC, certainly, with not, there can be perfectly nice and valuable and good and and appropriate standards developed by anybody. If you want standards as part of a coherent system where standards are maintained, standards are interlinked, standards are recognized, then CEN-CENELEC and ETSI and ISO and IEC offer that. Maybe some of the organizations listed there maybe don't offer it to the same degree. I don't mean to badmouth any of those bodies because they produce, I'm sure, very good standards, but again, we offer a system approach. Just in summary then, standards are needing to meet very different needs. Lots of new knowledge now is going straight to market. Doesn't used to go through various iterations, various stages, but now we find new products and systems and services reach the market very quickly. Standards can easily be bypassed if we don't make the right offer. There's a new generation that's already been mentioned by Anna. There are many more competing priorities. The need to be green, to digitize. It's about catching up. It's about market leadership. We have the growth of different regions in the world, different countries, challenging what used to be a European maybe lead or European dominant position. And so the standards have a role to play to respond to all of that. But this slide is redundant because it's already been very nicely covered by Anna already. The role of the European standard system made up of CEN-CENELEC and ETSI. You can't, sorry, the text is very too small, you can't read it, I'm sure. But just to say, look, these are the types of areas, not only on the left-hand side, market sectors, which very established and very, we know, construction, chemicals, consumers, or energies, utilities, and mechanical machines. But then there are on the right-hand side, maybe more, as I said, cross-cutting issues, eco-design, the need for e-mobility, public procurement issues, issues around about sustainability and smart, everything is smart, and why not? And so standards are need to also to enable the interaction, the connectivity between different maybe technologies or different services or different systems. We've got our CEN-CENELEC strategy 2030, and I pick out there are 5 main goals in that strategy. We want to offer state-of-the-art solutions. The strategy picks out digital, but I think we should be broader than that. And we also want to be the preferred choice for standardization, and we know that's a struggle, but that's our aspiration, because we think we have something to offer. One of the things I should say, because I think it's not covered elsewhere, all our CEN national members, the national standards bodies in Europe, members of CEN, to be a member of CEN, they must be a member of the ISO, the International Organization for Standardization. And the same goes on the electrotechnical side. To be a member of CENELEC, the national standards body in Europe, must be a member of the IEC, International Electrotechnical Commission. So that gives us this national through European, regional to international, and that's very important for stakeholders because it's an integrated global system from this, as I say, global international level through the European regional level down to standards are implemented at the national level, at country level, and our system offers that. And there you are. In fact, I jumped a slide, and this is what that slide is meant to say. Very nicely covered in the survey earlier on. CEN-CENELEC together have around about 26,000 deliverables. That's not either a good, the bigger the number is not neither representative of good or bad, or it's the number of standards that our market and all of our stakeholders have wanted to produce using our system. And it's not, the number itself isn't really important. It's the fact that the system is open to the stakeholders to develop the standards they want. And as has been very nicely covered, we offer different deliverables, different products for different needs. Particularly relevant for research is the workshop agreement, either a CEN workshop agreement or a CENELEC workshop agreement, and that's where the C in CWA comes from. And those are designed to be pre-standard products that can be delivered to the market very quickly to test. And that's particularly relevant for new areas, new knowledge coming from research and innovation. the bottom right of the screen, you'll see the sort of linkages we have with the international level. With ISO, again, another multi-sector organization, about a third of the European standards are taken from ISO or identical to ISO, particularly in areas like where there are common needs. Medical devices areas, I think about 60% of the, maybe more, of the European standards are equivalent to the ISO, identical with the ISO. And because of the need for electrotechnical safety is the predominant driver for standards in the electrotechnical area, of course, the percentage is much bigger between CENELEC and IEC. So 3/4 of the standards are absolutely identical. 3/4 of the European standards are identical to the international standards. And again, these are important figures for coherence in the market. Nobody wants to spend more money on developing standards, more time or effort or money than they need to. So having this flexible system that produces standards in an efficient way, in a coherent way, is, I think, a very important factor for the market. And of course, now the market goes beyond strictly commercial activities through companies and businesses. We include consumers, we include environmentalists, we include small businesses, we include those who are looking after, I think I mentioned consumer interests already, and workers' interests as well as researchers and innovators and regulators. And so when we come to this, looking at the CEN-CENELEC offer, the approach to opening ourselves up, opening our system up to be open to researchers and welcoming researchers and innovators, we need to reinforce the channels of communication. We need better than we've done in the past, and we're in the process of doing that. We've been doing that for some time. We need to make ourselves known and make ourselves understood. What is standardization? What is the process? And so activities like the HSbooster are perfect for that. And initiatives by the European Commission to develop the Code of Practice for Researchers on standardization is another huge, valuable and welcome support. I can't stress that enough. So we need to find ways to integrate and be open. We need to build capacity within the system. There's no point telling researchers, oh, we welcome you, and then we find our systems and our processes are not really understood or not really in tune with the researchers' needs. So we've tried to evolve those and make them user-friendly, and the discussion on the workshop agreement, the CWA, is exactly in line with that. We've launched an award scheme, again, to put ourselves a little bit on the map. This will take some time, but we've been doing this for about 5 years. I think this is the 5th year or something. We're this different categories of CEN-CENELEC Innovation Awards. And again, it's good to obviously good to recognize the contribution of researchers, research projects, young researchers, but it's also about raising the profile of CEN-CENELEC. These are some numbers. I won't go into them in detail. We are in the process of, we've been doing this for some time. I think we're at the, are we at the end of the beginning? We've still got a long, long way to go. These are some of the numbers we've managed to achieve so far. Projects where a national member of CEN-CENELEC is a partner in a Horizon Europe or Horizon 2020 project. Liaisons existing between technical committees. Number of published deliverables where we can absolutely categorically show the link back to input from research and innovation, research predominantly. Particular links that were with Horizon Europe, which is very important to us because it recognises this valorisation role of standardisation for new knowledge, for research outcomes. We are in the business of doing our work, making standards through groups of technical experts, grouped in technical committees. So the acronym TC is very important. We've got many technical committees, TCs, that work together in CEN-CENELEC because they're cross-cutting technologies like hyperloop systems, artificial intelligence, blockchain, quantum, but many more. This is probably a slide which is already out of date. We try to talk the language of the researchers, trying to link and show how our standards can help technology to be taken up and used, addressing different TRLs, technology readiness levels. And you can have this slide afterwards and digest that. If there are any questions, I'll put you in touch with my colleagues who can answer them. These are some figures here about current up-to-date figures that we're tracking, and much more like to keep a more of a scoreboard of links with the research community. And again, I won't go into, but I want to show that we're serious about doing this, and we're looking for ways all the time to develop that. Indulge me, I'm not going to go into this. There's just several slides here just to show the importance of the workshop agreement, the CWA, CEN-CENELEC workshop agreement. I've got several slides here just showing these are published CWAs. Not all, but many of them have been triggered by research projects. Horizon Europe and even from the framework programs before, Horizon 2020 especially. And forgive me for putting a really boring slide, but it's meant to make a point that already the CWAs are proving their worth because they really are being taken up. And some of the CWAs that were mentioned by Anna earlier on somewhere appear in these slides. I didn't know that Anna was going to give that, and so that's by accident, but it reinforces the message. We want to show that standards can help the impact and help new knowledge research outputs to reach the market. We need to generate trust, we need to generate knowledge, we need to generate familiarity, and also to be coherent with the other actors in the system. Predominantly, it's the commercial, the industry who buy and apply standards. So again, that's an important link to understand the needs and to integrate. It's a network approach, as I mentioned, and that has its strength that we want to explain and bring. And we want to be aware. Why should researchers and research organizations, why should they know CEN-CENELEC? It's not their job to know us. It's up to us to make ourselves aware and to promote what standardization can, how standardization can benefit. I think that was my last slide. Thank you for putting up with me, and hopefully some of that made some sense. And I'd be very happy to answer any questions online, offline, now, in the future. Thank you very much. I will stop sharing.
Thank you, Ashok. I will like to share my screen now and maybe ask the question, what benefits or outcomes would you like from standards? More than one answer can be relevant in this regard. So once again, you have the QR code on the screen, and the link is menti.com 54184813. Maria, could you please share this link in the chat also? We can wait a bit, maybe to see some answers. Okay. There are some answers coming. Would like to raise profits, cut costs, of course, ensure faster way to the market. For the technical committees to be more diverse, to be able to go beyond national borders and serve foreign markets more effectively. To connect with industry players, to ensure better access to the market, to gain contacts with industry. Okay. Ashok, maybe back to you to comment on these answers.
Yes, thank you very much. I think a great set of answers. I would agree with all of those. They're all absolutely relevant. And yeah, I mean, there are other, other things we can add on to that, but those, I just want to recognize that those are, to opening up the committees so they're more diverse, opening to greater knowledge and awareness. Absolutely. Better access to the market, both outside and within Europe. This linkage with industry and, the needs for standards are so diverse now. And the views on what a standard should contain are absolutely relevant to include that. I mean, standards at the end of the day are tools. They're working instruments. They're not reference documents. They're not encyclopedias. We've got plenty of those, and better than standards. And these standards are to enable things to be done. Whether it's as simple as just agreeing terminology in a new area, or establishing the requirements for a test procedure, or the performance of a product, or how systems integrate, or the behaviors of a particular system, or even a group of participants. These are all relevant to include in the content of the standards. Excellent set of replies.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ashok, very much. Maybe we can wait for a bit more answers, or we can go further ado because of our schedule. What do you say? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for participating. I would like now to give word to David. David, are you here?
I certainly am.
David, welcome. I will stop sharing my screen, so the floor is yours.
Right. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're well. I have got a challenge, and that there is only 15 minutes left for me to present my slides. First of all, can you hear me okay? And can you see the
Yes,
slides?
everything is okay.
Perfect. So quick introduction. I work for ETSI, who is one of the 3 European standards organization alongside CEN-CENELEC. We're based in Sophia Antipolis in the south of France. My job is Director of New Technologies, which encompasses many things. What I try to get across in this meeting is, so much has been said about the ESS, much has been said about standardization. We've seen how CEN-CENELEC work, which is very similar to the way that ETSI works. I'm going to try and do a thin slice, which is how the standards organizations, obviously I'll talk about ETSI, but the standards organizations generally are encouraging researchers to contribute. And I understand there are 30 or 40 researchers and several representatives of research projects here. So this is really sort of a fast track of how you can get involved. So first of all, ETSI in a nutshell, that was the title, I believe, originally. We've been around for 35 years approximately. We are a recognized ESO. We are founding partners of 3GPP, which hopefully many of you know is the organization making 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and soon to come 6G specifications for the mobile network, and also 1M2M, looking at machine-to-machine IoT. Those are partnership projects. We have well over 900 members. We're about 920 member organizations, well represented from all over the globe. I think we have 61 countries covered and 5 continents. Our members are typically operators, vendors, governments, public bodies, societal stakeholders. But what I wanted to call out here is, in fact, that currently 15% of our members are researchers, research projects, public research labs, private research labs, and universities. And that's actually gone up from last year. That was only 13% last year. And now we're looking at 15% of our 900 members come from the research category, which is a good news. How we approach innovation and research. So it's quite a complex area. We have one group at the board level, so top level, who's looking at enablers and links to researchers. So this is very important, how to get involved to researchers, academics, research platforms, and things such as the Next Generation Alliance in the US, 16G, IO, all those different sort of innovation-oriented entities. This group looks at how we can better work with those. We have another board level group, which is looking at future technology trends. And I'm not going to go into this now because we don't have much time, but ETSI has a technology radar, which is looking at the evolution and destructive, let's say, disruptive technologies which are on the radar for the next 1 to 5 years. We can think about AI, blockchain, quantum, non-terrestrial networks, the evolution of fiber optics, and all these different things. These are mapped in the ETSI technology radar, and you can see a link to it in these slides later on. And also we have a dedicated team, which is basically myself, which is looking at how to do the links to research and put in place tools, how to track future technology evolutions, and when those things come together. So when research is ready and when technology is ready, how to welcome those technology areas into ETSI in the shape of new work items, new technical bodies, TBs, TCs, or new ISGs. Very quickly, don't have much time. In ETSI, traditionally, we have technical committees, ETSI projects, partnership projects, ISGs, special committees, technical committees, and all of these are coordinated by the OCG. When you get the slides later on, you'll be able to go in depth to the various technologies we have. Again, you can see we are founding partners of 3GPP and 1M2M. You can see our work program. I won't go into lots of detail, but it covers everything from access to radio, to security, to mobile networks, to wireless networks, to emergency communications. It really is the ICT branch of standardization. But as Ashok said, as everything becomes digitized, we're working more and more alongside CEN-CENELEC, and we often have joint working groups with CEN-CENELEC, because when heavy industry becomes digitized, we need to incorporate the ICT element and the industry element. So we're getting higher up the pyramid, let's say. All of the information about our standardization groups are available here in the work program, and I'll let you consult that later on. So a little bit like the CEN-CENELEC workshop agreements, we have in place these things called industry specification groups, and these have been around for about 12 years now, and they really are destined at welcoming innovative technologies. We've used them successfully in the past on 5G, fifth generation mobile building block technologies in the shape of NFV, virtualizing ICT networks, edge communication, artificial intelligence, millimeter wave communication, quantum safe and quantum key. And you can see over here a list of the most recent ISGs. They're similar to TCs, but they tend to be a lot faster and a lot more agile. And they're very easy to set up as well. So if some universities working on research projects and the industrial partners wish to bring an innovative technology area to ETSI, the typical path would be via an ISG. And here again, we can see that the universities can take up official positions such as chair, vice chair, rapporteur, promotion officer. So there's a lot of measure for universities and researchers to get really engaged in standardization. Just on the right here, you can see two of our most recent ones. These are interesting because these are really 6G building blocks. So 6G will be coming to market in about 2030. And already we can see we're working on the pre-standardization of reconfigurable intelligence services and terahertz modeling. And these are directly emergent from European and national research projects and have been pushed by academics. Something new. Obviously, standardization is changing. It's no longer about paper. It's no longer about PDF. It's no longer about text. It's much more about code. And for the past couple of years, we've been experimenting with open source projects linked to our framework activities. So open source Mano is linked to ISG NFV to some extent, and SDN, Teraflow SDN is also linked to SDN controllers. So these are similar to traditional standards ISGs, let's say, but they produce, the members of these groups produce code and guidance on how to implement open source solutions. Also, we're currently looking at, so 5G is the now generation. 5G is being deployed to market as we speak. But what the researchers are doing now and have been for the past 2 or 3 years is looking at what could 6G be. And there's been a lot of white papers, a lot of vision documents, a lot of private industries saying, we think 6G is this, we think 6G is that. And now things are beginning to solidify. And on the right here, I won't go into deep detail, but we can see some of the technology areas that industry seems to be converging upon for 6G, the sixth generation of mobile networks. And you can already see some big lines here. 6G will need to be much more sustainable, energy efficient, and have a much more positive impact on the planet than 4G and 5G. 6G will certainly incorporate quantum networks, blockchain. They will probably move up from millimeter wave to sub-terahertz and 4 terahertz. There will be some element of reconfigurable intelligent surfaces, which is a smart mirror to allow you to get better coverage. There will be an element of communications and sensing, which is interesting. So now your 6G network may be able to have a communications channel and also sense parameters around it in a little bit similar way to radar. Spectrum sharing will become very important. Antenna evolution will become very important. So moving from massive MIMO to distributed massive MIMO. And other such things, and the inclusion of satellite networks. Before, we really had satellite networks and terrestrial networks. Now we're looking at how non-terrestrial networks and terrestrial networks will come together. So these are really interesting areas of research, and we're seeing these are being brought into pre-standardization as we speak. On some of the building blocks, as I said previously, we've set up ETSI ISG terahertz and ETSI ISG RIS, and already we're thinking about the next step, which could be how to do pre-standardization coming out of research projects carried by researchers into ETSI in the domain of integrated sensing and communications. This has come from the European Commission, our good friend Bernard Barani, who used to work for DG Connect. Now he's luckily retired. But this is really showing the time scale for 6G. So over here we can see 6G services coming to market at around 2030. But what we have here is this window of opportunity where we have lots of European research projects going on. They've been in place since 2019, 2020, 21, and they're beginning to provide output which can be used for pre-standardization. So in this window of opportunity, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, this is really where the projects can get their standards ready to be fed into the global standardization bodies, in this case, such as 3GPP, or even ORAN, as again, we're seeing the standardization landscape changing. How can ETSI help researchers? I'm not going to go into this now because I want to leave maybe a bit of time for Q&A, but basically we are open. Researchers and universities can be members. You can have active roles in all of our TCs, ISGs. You can contribute to the specifications. You can download the specifications for free, but I'll let you read that later on. Also, some things we've recently put in place specifically for researchers, universities, and research projects. We always give general advice on standardization. So as CEN-CENELEC, we have a help desk for researchers. And if you have any question on standardization in ETSI, 3GPP, or any other standards bodies, you can always send an email to research@etsi.org. I'll take the email and then I'll forward it back to our colleagues in ETSI, 3GPP, even into CEN-CENELEC and others. It's really sort of a help desk to anybody who wants to know anything about standardization. Recently, we've been providing letters of support to consortia, putting in requests for funding in national projects, so UK, France, Germany, Spain, and also in European projects, mostly around the SNSJU, so the 6G area. And we've had a lot of letters of support to many projects. In addition, what we can do, we can be present on the external advisory committee where we can actually help those projects develop their standardization roadmaps. And when people say, when should researchers start thinking about standardization, I would say it's never too early. As soon as you open up a research project, think about what output would you like to have, what impact would you like to have, in which standardization bodies and which standardization groups. And that you can do even before setting up the consortia. And finally, what we've put in place is a mapping of ETSI groups. So you saw those TCs and ISGs earlier on against the European projects. So I won't go into lots of detail because I am short of time, but I just wanted to show you this one. So as mentioned, there is a European funded CEN-CENELEC Smart Network Services joint undertaking looking at 6G standardization. In there are 35 ICT 6G oriented projects. And what we've done in ETSI, we've taken those projects, we've described them, and we've started mapping them to groups in 3GPP, groups in ETSI. And what we're trying to do is get the researchers and the standards experts to come and talk together in some sort of exchange so they can see, the researchers can see how the standards can help them, and the standards people can see when the researchers will be ready to bring their output into standardization. So it really is building those bridges. To help with that, we built a pretty informal thing that we call a catalyst session, CAT being come and talk. And basically we get the standards experts in a room, we get the researchers and the innovators in a room, could be a virtual room, and say, let's talk about terahertz, let's talk about sensing, let's talk about satellites, show me the output of your research project and I'll show you what I'm doing in standardization. So it really is to get this sort of bridge building between standards experts and researchers and innovators. Lots more information available on etsi.org/research and other such things. And I think I will end it there because I really would be interested in the questions that may come back from the audience. So thank you very much. Any questions? Can you hear me?
Thank you, David. Nick, do we do Q&A right now, or
yeah,
do
I think
time?
Yeah, I think we can. We can stay on for a few more minutes to do some Q&A.
Yeah, there's a lot more information in the slides, but I really wanted to finish at 11:30 because that was the deadline. So there's more there if you need.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Ashok, as well, and thank you, Anna. So we had really good overviews, I think, and really nice overviews of examples of projects. Sorry, examples of how projects can in a practical basis get involved as well. It was interesting seeing David's slides about the 5G and 6G projects. I was at an event recently where it was very interesting to see newly funded projects meeting together at ETSI and really seeing how a lot of the projects could and have since applied for booster services to get a bit of guidance on directions, etc., and to establish realistic objectives. And what we've seen in the services that have been delivered so far is that it's been quite good for projects to get an external viewpoint on the various technical committees or working groups that their results could be matched to. And also quite practical examples of how an expert may be involved in one of those groups, be it ETSI, be it CEN-CENELEC, be it ISO, and they can give really practical guidance to consortia who perhaps don't have the right knowledge or expertise to be able to do that. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I've got a question to David and Ashok. So you gave some really nice examples of the industry specification groups and the workshop agreements in CEN-CENELEC as practical ways where projects can engage. And Ashok, you had that nice slide where you showed all of the different workshop agreements. But I wondered if there was one example in particular that sticks in your mind of a project which has, really successfully made a difference in the work on any topic, where they've, really practically been able to make a difference in a standard. So I wondered, I know you're not prepared for that question, but I wondered if any stick in your mind at all, and if you could just mention that.
Perhaps I can try and answer. I mean, I think it would be wrong for me, I think, to try to estimate that. I think our interest is to allow that possibility. And for us, we do talk numbers from where I sit in the management centre. It's like a scoreboard, and of course, it's up to those involved to understand what value they generated. We allow a process. Sorry, it's a bit of a non-answer, I know, but it's we don't. I'm hoping that every single product we allow to be produced through our system, we enable, is of value, and it's not for me to estimate whether or to. Sorry, I apologise for the type of answer, because it's really a non-answer, but.
That's
yeah.
okay. I think actually Anna and Biljana, they have a couple of case studies of projects which have gone through the workshop agreement. So there's on the Academy, if you click on the Academy and filters, you click on advanced, then they have these two case studies, which actually Anna mentioned in her slides as well. So thanks, Ashok. Yeah, sorry, I sprung that question on you. Not really fair. David, I wondered if you any spring to mind?
Well, I just put some in the chat. We've really been focusing on research intensely for the past 2 or 3 years. Before, it was happening sort of intrinsically and organically, and researchers were coming. What we're looking at is the delta, sort of 3 years ago and now. We're seeing more research members in, I won't say ETSI, I'll say ESOs. We're seeing more research representatives engaged at a high level. So we've got chairs from universities, we've got rapporteurs leading work items, we've got vice chairs from research labs. So this is changing. We're looking at the number of research projects with which the ESOs are engaging. So we are engaging with these many projects. That's gone up so much over the past few years. These are, I'm not a big fan of KPIs, but these are sort of, let's say, feelings. And then the number of research projects actually engaging with standardization. So can we trace a research project, the output, into a European deliverable, or a global, even better, a global deliverable? So can we go from this great idea coming out of, let's say, Paris-Saclay University, in a European funded project, through standardization in ETSI, through full standardization in 3GPP, and then into market. So this whole sort of value chain from a great idea, research, all the way through to product in market. And we're seeing that increasing as well. The number of times we can map a research idea back into a standard and then onto market is also increasing. So anything really where we can see more engagement from researchers and research projects in standardization is a good thing, but we still have lots left to do. We need to clearly explain the value of standardization, clearly explain how to get involved, clearly give opportunities for conversations. So we've got our value statement, let's say, but we need to promote that to the right community. So things such as HSbooster and Stand ICT, EUCNC event in Sweden last week, these are great places for us to talk to researchers and say, can we help you? This is what we know. Have you got a question? It's really opening up those dialogues, which is essential. That probably wasn't a good answer anyway, but it's, you know, it came from the heart.
That's important. That's important. That's great. Thank you very much, David. And thank you, Ganesh, as well. Sorry, Ganesh, Ashok, sorry. And thank you also to Biljana and Anna for their hard work today. I'll just, I have a very easy job, but I'll just share this slide very, very quickly, if I can, to remind you that we have 2 more training webinars next week. So please do join them. You can register on the website. See You Smiling Game has limited numbers, so please join. That's the first time we're doing this online, so it should be good. And it's also going to be at the EUROS conference if you're lucky enough to be there at the end of June. And then also standards users and the use of standards coming up next week as well. So with that, thank you very much for staying on. Apologies we went over, but I think it was a great webinar, really informative. And again, thank you very much to all the speakers. And we'll see you next week. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.